As AI technology becomes more advanced, its popularity is reaching new levels every day, almost to the point where it's becoming a bit of a buzzword, and you can see eyes start rolling as soon as you start talking about it. But regardless, the adoption of AI tech in business is taking off at an unprecedented level. And the fact is, if you don't have a plan to integrate AI into your own business, chances are you're falling behind. Jumping on board early and starting to learn what AI can really do for your business is going to give you a huge edge in your market. And at the very least, if robots do one day take over, you'll at least have a chance to cultivate a bit of a relationship, which will hopefully help in the long run. Now, all of this might sound a bit dramatic, but you don't just need to take it from me. Looking at plenty of insights studies all over the show, specifically this one here is a really good one from the Australian Cybersecurity magazine. You can see that the implementation of AI is coming in, and it's coming in thick and fast. Right now, we are still at a low point, and I think people are yet to fully understand the benefits that AI could be having on their business. But I mean, just take a look at some of these numbers. So 25% of Aussie businesses have already embraced AI tools and are starting to implement. So, I mean, 25%, a quarter, that's not a crazy amount. Mind you, where are we? We're on the 30th of September now. This is from June 17th, so no doubt those numbers are starting to pick up. But I mean, just look at the 2026 projections. We've got 90% of medium-sized businesses will be using AI by 2026, according to this survey. So, I mean, the numbers are there. You really can see pretty clearly that we've got a bit of a revolution on our hands here. And this sort of tech is only getting better. It's only getting more able to handle whatever problems you might have. So, I mean, let's dive in and let's have a look at some use cases. So we are starting off with a heavy hitter. I mean, this is an absolute game changer, to be honest. VAPI, voice agents in general, are something that kind of blew my mind when I first started using them. You think of like a text-to-speech kind of setup, and you think, it sounds okay. Pretty easy to tell that it's robotic, and definitely doesn't have that kind of human flow that you might be looking for. Forget about it. Wrong. Outdated. Definitely not the case anymore. VAPI and what it has done by linking up with just the top of the line text-to-speech providers such as 11 Labs has completely changed the game. There are certainly instances in the speech where you can see there might be a bit of a glitch, it might be a little bit robotic, but I mean, that's to be expected. It's not being perfected yet, but it gets as close as anyone's ever gotten to making this stuff sound realistic. Now, let's have a look at some use cases, because you think about VAPI, you kind of think when you call the bank and you get on the phone to the bank and it says, "Hi, please enter your customer number." And it's like, oh God, I have to deal with this. There's so much more than that. So much more that can be done. So let's have a look. First of all, financial services. I come at this from a financial services background. That's what I've done for a job for most of my career. One of the most important things about financial services, and specifically things like mortgage broking, that's what I did for a job. One of the most important parts about mortgage broking is making sure that you can get to a lead on time and get them booked in. There are studies that show if you are able to call a lead that comes through to your website within 5 minutes of it coming through, you're 21 times more likely to get that lead booked into a second meeting with one of your sales advisors than if you even wait an hour until after that lead comes through. Because the reality is, and most people that work in finance know this, especially mortgage brokers, when someone puts a lead, a form through to your website to come through for some help from you, they're shopping around. So sometimes if you leave that lead like a day or even a couple hours, you might get on the phone with this person and say, "Hey, thanks for putting the form through." And they say, "No, sorry, I've gone elsewhere. I'm already talking to someone else. I'm already halfway through the process." So the speed that the other provider got to that lead has just cost you that sale. What if I told you that we can set up an automation that as soon as that lead comes through to your funnel, the voice assistant that I'm about to show you gets straight on the phone, calls the lead, qualifies it for you, and then books it in for a second meeting? Obviously, this AI voice caller isn't going to be the master salesman, and it's not going to be something that you deploy to close all of your deals. But that being said, it can be pretty persuasive. I've trialed it a lot of times. I've had other people trial it, and this thing really gets down to business. If you tell it that you want to book the lead in for a second meeting, it will go hard. It will try its best to get you that second meeting booked in. Now, other use cases, real estate, same sort of thing. Lead comes through, someone might want to, have a look at an open home. They're interested in a listing. It gets on the phone and it's going to speak to that person, ask them what they're interested in, what their price range is, all this sort of stuff that's going to be relevant for what a real estate agent is looking for. It's going to ask them that, and it's going to capture that information. It's going to, we're using the automations that we've built. It's going to put it nicely directly into your CRM or into a Google Excel sheet, wherever you want that lead to end up. That can all be handled, and it's all handled on the phone in real time as you make that call. So I'll show you a bit of a demonstration so you can actually see it happening in real time. But I mean, it's just amazing. E-commerce, abandoned carts. This is something that's been picked up big time by e-commerce platforms. You'll probably have noticed it yourself in the past. You pop something into your cart, you're shopping around, maybe you put it into your cart and then you decided, maybe not, maybe it's a bit expensive, I'll leave it for now, or maybe you just got distracted. Chances are you've probably got like an email or a text message saying, hey, you left this behind. Why don't you come back and get it? Or, hey, I see you weren't able to complete the purchase. What if I give you 10% off? Would that make you come back and buy? And that has just been massively effective for cutting down cart abandonment, getting people to really commit to the sale. It's just amazing. Personal trainers and gyms, someone wants a gym tour. That's actually specifically the demo that I'm going to be showing you today is gym tours. Someone calls into your gym, they want to have a look around and see, if it's the right gym for them. That's what this AI voice agent is going to do for you. It's going to get this person in the door at a time that suits both you, the business owner, and the customer. So it's amazing. I was thinking of use cases, and I mean, there's hundreds more that I could have listed. What I was actually struggling with is where this wouldn't work. I can't think of a single business today that couldn't benefit from having a voice agent as part of their team. So the use cases are unlimited. If there's a problem that you have, not just specific to voice agents, but AI in general, if you're having some problem, if you're having some repetitive process in your day-to-day workflow, the chances are AI can fix it for you. So let's dive into VAPI. I've got an agent already set up. We're going to do a bit of a demo and hopefully give you a bit of a look at what it looks like when you call through to one of these voice agents. So we're here in VAPI. We've got our lovely assistant here, Ben, ready to take our call. We have our automations running to check availability and book us in for a time. So let's give Ben here a call and see if we can't book ourselves a gym tour.
Hello, this is Ben from NSC Gym. How may I help you today?
Hey Ben, I was just hoping to book a gym tour.
Fantastic, I'd love to help with that. Could you let me know your full name, please?
Yeah, that's Ryan Barton.
Thanks, Ryan. What date and time would you prefer for your gym tour?
Yeah, can I just check what times you have available for tomorrow?
Just a sec. Alright, Ryan, here are 5 available times for tomorrow. 1, 9 a.m. 2, 11 a.m. 3, 1 p.m. 4, 3 p.m. 5, 5 p.m. Which one works best for you?
Yeah, can we do 3 p.m.?
Great choice, Ryan. I'll need your phone number and email to confirm the booking.
Yep, so phone number is 123 45678 and email address is 123@test.com.
Thank you, Ryan. Just to recap: name, Ryan Barton. Tour date and time: tomorrow at 3 p.m. Phone number 1234567 Email 123@test.com. Is everything correct?
Yep, that sounds good.
Just a sec. Your tour is all set for tomorrow at 3 p.m. Ryan, anything else I can assist with?
No, that's great, Ben. Thanks very much.
You're welcome, Ryan. Enjoy your visit to Annecy Gym. Have a great day.
Beautiful. There we are. Now that's probably one of my favourite voice agents, especially on the Australian side. What you can sometimes run into, especially with the, I suppose, less used accents, like Australian or Kiwi accents compared to American accents. Obviously, America is where most of this stuff will be being utilised, so there's a lot more examples to go off of. But I mean, you could see there, I think Ben, old mate Ben here, handled that perfectly. You could also see in the background that we have all these beautiful green ticks. So this one here was checking my calendar just to see if we did have any times available for tomorrow. And once it got to the end here, it realised that we did, presented those options to me, I chose them, and then as soon as I gave it the rest of my information, like my phone number and my email address, it went ahead and booked us in. So we'll be all sorted to go in for a check out of the gym tomorrow. Awesome, so now that we've had our little bit of a demo, let's kind of look at the behind the scenes and see exactly what happened there. So VAPI is where we are launching the call from. We are calling through to, on this instance, it was just a web client. So we're just calling through to the web client, but this can easily be put onto a phone number as well, which if you wanted to do that, we would just come down here. So I've got a couple numbers here, probably hidden just so you can't call me and spam my numbers that I'm paying for. But this is where you'll pop your numbers in. So with Australian numbers, like I've got here, the options are limited as far as buying a number on the platform itself. The only two types of numbers that you can buy on the platform is United States and Canada. So, I mean, if you're based there, happy days. If not, then you'll just need to go through Twilio, which I'll show you later in the video. Otherwise, Vonage is an option as well, and we can have a brief look at that, though Twilio is what I prefer. So just having a further look through, we'll come down into files. So what we've got here is the knowledge base. So this is really powerful for making sure that your voice agent completely understands what you want it to be understanding. So if you've got a whole bunch of information documents about your business, maybe you've got a website where you host all of your information, like your About Us, the services that you offer, you can upload all of that into the knowledge base, and the voice agent is going to draw on the information in the knowledge base to help guide its conversations. So if, say, for example, you upload your website URL into the knowledge base, or let's just say a PDF file with some information on your business, it will be able to read through that PDF, and if someone asks, what are the opening hours? If you've got the opening hours in that PDF document, it'll be able to pull from there and go into the conversation. Now, opening hours, something so basic is probably not the best example, because what you can see is that with the assistant itself, and you might have seen I have the hours already on the prompt here, which we'll go a bit into. But just in general, knowledge base is a great way to make sure that your voice agent has that base of understanding. So if it does face any kind of curveball questions that isn't part of its strict prompt, then it'll have something backing it up to be able to answer. So tools, we'll go a bit more into this a bit further in the video, but this is a great way to link the integration with make.com. So the whole functionality of why I was able to launch this automation on the back of the phone call was because of tools. So we'll have a good look at that. Blocks, not going to go into that right now, it's not too important. Squads, this is I suppose best to use an example. If you're part of one business but you've got multiple different locations, you can have one assistant at the start, and then say Benji here, he captures the call initially and says, hey, where are you calling for? Would you like to speak to our Sydney, Melbourne, or Brisbane office? And Benji can then direct that call to either one. Just in the cases where the separate offices might have different kind of rules or different products or services or opening hours or such, that can be helpful. So now we've got the voice library, and this is where we will search through. So you've got a lot of different options here, a lot of different providers as well. Now, I haven't really explored much others just because 11 Labs really is the top of the line, and they've got, I mean, like 1,211 different voices, all in these different accents, which you can see here. You've got Australian, English, Swedish. There's New Zealand as well, further down, but you've got a huge library and they are all really high quality for the most part. So just searching through, seeing what you like and matching that to your target market, especially on the side of accents. Like, some people in Australia might be preferring to speak to someone that sounds like they're Australian, so you'll want to link them up with one of those voices. So that's cool. We'll look into logs really quickly. So we've got the calls here. So this is where you can go in and view the analytics of the call. It gives you logs so you can see exactly what was said, and that can help you kind of troubleshoot in the future if you do have any issues with the caller itself. Now, just jumping back into this main assistant page, sort of your home page sort of thing, let's have a quick run through of how we were able to make that demo happen. So what you've got here is your model. This is what's going to configure the model for the assistant, what's going to feed the info to the assistant so that it can speak to you through that conversation and set things up how you want them to be set. So this is the absolute make or break of a voice agent, is the prompt. Prompt engineering in of itself is a big skill and a big thing to learn when it comes to building AI solutions like this. You really want to make sure that you're getting things clear and concise, especially concise, because the more information that you put into the prompt, the more that the large language model or the chat GPT in this case has to read through, and that's going to cost you more as well, because if it has to filter through more information, it's taking more time and it's using more processing power, so that it's going to charge you more. And you would find that if I added a lot more information, in fact, let me just give you a look at what that would look like now. So we've got 12 cents a minute now. If I were to just copy that and then paste that down the bottom, we scroll up, that's gone up another 2 cents, 0.2 cents per minute. So we get rid of that, not needing that, and then we are back down to 12 cents a minute, so that's perfect. Now, this is something that I won't go too far into because it probably needs its own video, but what you're looking at here is what's called markdown formatting. That's a way of making it easier for ChatGPT to filter through the information. So you've got your hashtags here. So you've got your system prompt basically telling the assistant what its purpose is. And then you've got these little asterisks here, which you can see around Annecy Gym and the address. So the reason for that is these asterisks marks a bit of a sense of importance for the ChatGPT. So if it reads something that is marked by a couple asterisks, it knows it's more important and will put a bit more emphasis about it. Like if I were to ask Ben here where the gym is located, it's not going to have to look far because it's emphasized and it can see that this is the address here and it's going to tell me where we're looking. So provider of the prompt, so that's just the large language model. We've got ChatGPT, OpenAI, definitely the best option for the sort of conversational voice agents at the moment. We've got the 4.0 4.0 cluster, which is good, one of the more recent models. And you will find if you kind of cycle through these, just keep an eye on the latency up here. So as you change through, you'll find that different models have different costs as well as different latencies. So you've got the mini cluster, which has dropped our cost as well as our latency, which is great. But the problem is with this one is it's just not quite as adept at handling the conversational side of things, and you'll find that you're probably tripping Ben up a bit more often than you would on the 4.0 cluster. Similarly with the 3.5 Turbo, again, just not as smart of a model, but definitely faster and cheaper. And then you've got the 4 Turbo cluster, which is probably the smartest model on the platform at the moment, but as you can see, costs a lot more and takes a lot longer. So we settled with the 4.0 cluster, and that seems to do the job great. We've got temperature here. That is basically telling the prompt the agent how strict it needs to be. So if you're pulling down the temperature, it's going to directly result in the randomness of how the voice agent replies to things. So if you've got a temperature on absolute 0, it's going to follow this prompt pretty much to the T, and if anything goes outside of that prompt, it's probably just going to freak out. It's really not going to offer too much variance in what it's saying, and that's when you can get a little bit robotic. Whereas if I went all the way up here, it's probably just going to go off on a tangent and start talking about what it had for breakfast. So we leave that pretty central, leave it at 1, and that's good. We've got the detect emotion, which is really good for assistance that'll be deployed in places where you might get some upset customers calling through. It's going to be able to hear that someone is upset, if someone's crying or if someone's screaming down the phone at you. It's going to be able to detect that and kind of play a bit of a de-escalation role and saying, I understand how you feel. Let's see if we can get this all sorted out for you. So not really required. I don't imagine anyone's going to be screaming down the phone when they're trying to book an appointment, so we just leave that off for now. Transcriber, that is what is giving you the transcription back to the prompt. So it's hearing the voice that's coming through the phone, it's feeding the text through to the language model, and then it's coming back out as a voice from Ben. So we just leave that at deepgram, Nova 2, everything is all good here. So voice, that's where we are picking up who is talking to us. So we've got Alex here, Australian male, casual, Melbourne City. You heard the example, he handled it perfectly, so we're happy with that. I've got a couple additional kind of settings here, which we won't go too much into. You've always got the information logs here that will tell you exactly what each one does, but we're just going to stick on the main points here for now. And this is something that's more so going to come in once you've had a play around with it. Once it's been deployed for a few weeks, you can kind of come back, listen to how things are sounding, and make some adjustments whether you feel you need to. So we'll leave that for now. Now functions, this is one of the most important parts of the process. So you can see we've got a couple functions already active here. So that's the check availability and the book appointment. That's the two separate automations that we had here. So you can see we've got the check availability and then the book appointment. So the tools, that's what's connecting us to these make.com automations. Now going into advanced, again, this is more the specific sort of stuff that you'll want to have a play around with once you've gotten comfortable with what your voice agent is, how it's performing. What we can get into now though is just the voicemail messages. That's pretty self-explanatory. You can set that how you like, or the end call message. So if you've got an end call message saying banana 1 2 3, if you tell the model to say banana 1 2 3 after someone gives you their name, and you put the end call instruction as banana 1 2 3, as soon as Ben here says banana 1 2 3, it's going to hang up. I said banana 1 2 3 too many times now, so we'll move on. So now we're going to have a look at how to get this automation from VAPI. So we've got the phone call, we've got the information from the client on the phone. Let's look at how to move that over from VAPI into make.com. So in make.com, what we've got here is a webhook. So In order to create new modules in here, you can just double click and you'll want to grab a webhook, go custom webhook, and just create a webhook. So obviously I've already got one here, so we'll just have a look at that. So once you've added one, it should come up and look like this, and it will automatically generate a little URL here for you. So let's just copy that to our clipboard for now, and then we'll come back over to VAPI. So we want to create a new tool to allow the voice agent to send this automation through make.com. So we'll come up here, we'll go new tool, and we'll click on make, since that's where we're sending our data, and we're going to drop that URL into this field here. So we'll go save, next, and we're looking for some properties. So you'll fill these out, go next, and then name your tool. So I've already got this one created here, and that's the check availability tool. So you'll find I've got the server URL here, and that will be the same URL as what's in make.com. So that'll be linking together. So those two properties, we've got name, which is the name of the user, and it's important to put that little description, even though it's pretty obvious what it is, because the ChatGPT or the LLM, the large language model, will be taking that into consideration as well. So we'll have the name of the user and the date and the time that they would like to have a look at what's available for a booking. So date and time that they've requested, and then it'll take you through and you'll just name your tool. So we've named ours check availability, and that will check the availability for the user to book a gym tour at their requested date and time. So once that's all saved, in order to have the assistant acting on this command, you'll come back to assistant where we were before, go down to our assistant, into functions. Now it's still called functions, that's what the tools used to be called. That's going to be phased out pretty soon, but that's what that's referring to there is the old name for those. So we'll come down here. Obviously we've already got the check availability selected, but you would see it in the list once you've created yours. Go check availability, and anytime that you make any changes to the voice agent, just make sure that you're clicking publish, otherwise that's not going to pull through if you were to test the agent without clicking that. So just always make sure that's up to date. So let's jump back into that check availability and do some work in make.com. Great, so hopefully my head's out the way now. This will just be a bit of a crash course to have a look at what make.com is achieving for us, so you can follow along and see how to create this yourself. So we've got the webhook here, that's what's going to be giving us the data that we've received from the phone call from VAPI, and what we're going to do is create this ChatGPT module. So basically, create the module, you can just double click on the screen and you'll select OpenAI, or even easier, you can just look for create a completion, and you'll click on this one. Now we've already got this here, so let me just show you kind of the inputs that we're working with. So just follow along with the model, the 4.0 model. That's similar to what we had in VAPI. That's an efficient and effective model that we can use there. You'll also need to connect your OpenAI account, and there's a little link here that you can use with a quick step-by-step on how to achieve that. That's pretty straightforward. Now, we've got the system. This is essentially telling ChatGPT what it is that we want it to achieve for us. So we've got a bit of context here, and again in that markdown formatting that I mentioned earlier. So we've just asked the user when they would like to book a meeting. If you remember, I said tomorrow, and one thing that you might be wondering is, how does ChatGPT know what tomorrow is? How does it know what the date is? So that's when we'll come down to user. That's going to give us this variable. So this is the current date and time, and we're going to put now. So that's just a variable that's offered standardly by make.com, which you can find in this date and time tab, and it's just going to be down here. So now, it knows that now is the 1st of October, and if I say tomorrow, it understands that it wants me, or I want to book for the 2nd. Now the second variable here is something that's coming directly from VAPI, so we can jump into the star tab and pick that up. So we've got the function.arguments, so we can find that. You can kind of see the flow and where that's located. but just for the sake of the video, come into tool call list, function, and arguments. So arguments is essentially what the tool is picking up from what we said to Ben on the call earlier. You'll remember we named our variables name and date and time, so it's picked it up the best that it could. Ryan Barson, close enough, and the date and time. So we're working with that, so you just come through here and click that, and that will populate in there. Don't click date and time, click arguments. Perfect. Max tokens, that's how many tokens that you want the ChatGPT to go up to generate you the response. It's not an overly complex completion that we're doing here, so 250 is more than enough. Awesome. And now you can just have a quick look at the message content as well if you want to kind of copy along with that too. Now, an important thing to note before we jump out of there is that every time you do create one of these modules and fill it out, you have to hit OK, otherwise it won't save. It will give you a good idea that you'll know that it hasn't saved, but just a reminder there, hit OK every time. So the next one is pass JSON. You don't really need to know what that means. It's sort of coding language, but what that is doing is taking our output, which we've asked the system to generate for us, which is the start and end time, and it's just making it a bit prettier, a bit more digestible for the automation. So JSON, what we want to do here is just create a data structure. So when you create your JSON module, just look up pass JSON, it'll ask you to create a data structure, and here's what that's going to look like. So name your structure however you think is necessary to be able to remember it, and you're going to drop some specifications in here. So first of all, start time, self-explanatory, and then end time. So our business at I fed to the voice agent is 9 till 5. That's when we're open and can take appointments. So that's what the start and end time will be if I just come along and say, you know, what are your options for tomorrow? If I'm just giving it tomorrow, or if I'm just saying a day, like what are your options on Thursday, then the start and end time is just going to be 9 through 5. But if I ask, you know, are you available Friday on Friday at say 12 p.m, then it's going to be 12 p.m. for the start time there. Regardless, the JSON string, so yeah, essentially start time, end time on the messages, and then you can just leave the rest of it as is. Now, where we're getting that data from is the message that ChatGPT is producing, the output. And to find that, you're just going to follow along this flow here. So choices, and then message, and then content. So you can see the little output, or the start of the output that it's giving us there. So JSON's going to pass through that and then come out to the tools. So what we want to do with the tools is we're going to select the module to set multiple variables. That's going to take the start time and put it in a day format, just so the rest of the flow knows what day that we've requested. So I said tomorrow, and that is Wednesday for me. So the system knows that we want to book a time on Wednesday, and it's going to search through some times for us. So we'll call the variable day of the week, and we're going to format it. So we're going to take the start time, which is what's coming from the JSON, and we're going to change that into DD. So that's essentially, if it's Monday, it's going to be MO, or in our case, it's Wednesday, it's going to be WE, or if it's Saturday, SA. You get the point. But you'll find that by coming to the date and time tab again, and just down the bottom here, click format date, and you'll want the start time in here, because that's going to check. What have I done there? Okay, we'll get a real-time build. So we'll make that up again. So we'll go format date, and before the semicolon is what we want it to be changing. So we're going to grab the variable here, which is the start time, and we want to turn the start time from this, so which is the 30th of September. It's not the 2nd of October, because this is from a previous generation, but we're going to turn that into DD, just so we know what day we're working with. And the second variable is the tool call ID. We just want to know where the tool call is coming from. So we've got the tool with tool call list. So we'll come down here. We've got the tool call and the ID. So we'll grab that here and we'll click that in, and that will get us our tool call ID. So click OK there. And now we come to the router. So the router in this instance is just going to, since the business that we're working with is only Monday to Friday, if what the tool generates is an SA for Saturday or an SU for Sunday, then it's going to tell that router that the user has requested a Saturday or a Sunday, and it's going to say no, pick another day. So what we've got here, the label, don't book appointment if the day of the week equals SA or SU. If it doesn't equal SA or SU, you don't need a filter there, because it's just going to shoot straight through. So if we've got Monday through Friday, it's going to pop into the Google Calendar. So with our Google Calendar module, it is just going to be make an API call. You'll want to connect your Google Calendar wherever you want your meetings to be getting sent to, and you can see kind of the intricacies of how to do that with this link, but for this video we won't get too far into that. So the URL that we need to check whether we have any availabilities on a certain day is the free or busy, because if we've got to this point we know that it's Monday to Friday, because if they've said Saturday or Sunday they've been sent back, and this sending it back, it's essentially giving the voice agent a command. So if we get up to here, the voice agent's going to know, like, hey, you know, we don't work Saturdays or Sundays, and it's actually going to tell the user that. So that's really helpful. But if we've gotten this far, it's Monday to Friday. So free busy is the URL that we need to check that calendar. So it's a post method, and the headers that we need to add is the content type and application/JSON. And then the body. So the body is essentially what we're dealing with as far as the day and the time, and we've got the time zone here. So that's my time zone. I'm +10 for Brisbane time, and this is where we want the information sent. That's the calendar that we're linking up. So all good on this one. That's going to check whether this calendar that we've linked up has any space on the day that they've selected. Now, if we do have space, it's going to go through another router and go down the line. If we don't have space, it's going to fall back on this. So when we've set up this router, the filter that we've set up is essentially a fallback. A fallback acts if we have no time spaces, it's going to automatically send it down through here and kick us back and tell the voice agent again to say to the person, sorry, no availability on that day, can you please pick another day? Now, assuming we get through, the next, and just again, we don't need any filter on this, just because if it is successful, it's going to fly straight through. Now the next is an iterator. So with the iterator, setting that up, what we're putting in here is the body from the Google Calendar request. Won't get too much into the details, but what that's doing is giving us a list of available time slots that we have. You heard on the demo, it listed me out 5 different time slots. Now, it could have gone through and listed every single one of the time slots. Maybe that's a bit excessive, but if you did want it to be set up that way, you could. But what an iterator is doing is it just shooting out an array of options. So you'll put the body in there, and we will move on to the JSON again. So with the JSON, we will be setting up another new data structure. So you'll want to create a new one, and this is what this one's going to look like. So just on that though, it is a create JSON module this time instead of the parse that we were used to. But this is what the data structure will look like. So we're taking the value from the iterator, and that's given us multiple different options, which is what's called an array. So that's the type, and then the array itself is a collection of available times. So the type will be collection. Now, start time, we've named this start T just to differentiate, but that is the start time of the availabilities that we have. So you heard the voice agent say back to us, you know, we've got 9 a.m. or we've got 11 a.m. or whatever time it will be. That's where that's getting that from. and you'll want the end time as well, and the rest of that stuff we can just leave as default. So now that that's set up, we can hit OK on that. And now we're coming back to ChatGPT. So similar sort of thing, we're setting up a create a completion module, which you can find in the same way. Your connection will already be set up, which is good. Now system, we're coming back to the prompt. If I want to be playing by my own rules, I can kind of put that into markdown format. So context, and here we go. So you'll be provided the busy slot from the calendar. Let's ideally spell calendar correctly. That's being the busy slots is coming from the iterator that we put that we set up before. So just a couple rules for the voice agent. If it's a whole hour, it's going to say 9 a.m. rather than saying 9 semicolon 00 a.m. If the busy slots go from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m., there's no available slots, so that's going to tell them to pick another day if for some reason it gets through this webhook. So that's the first message, is the system, and then the user message. So this is where we are feeding ChatGPT the actual available times. So the busy slots will come through this JSON string that we've set up, and each start and end pair represents one busy slot. So it knows if there is a start time for 9 a.m. through till 10 a.m., that's one slot. Again, max tokens 250, not a complicated completion, so that's fine. Now, webhooks. Once we got to the end, we have identified some available times, which we're going to ask the voice agent to communicate to the user. So what we've got here, and you can copy along this, but essentially we've got the tool call ID, which is the tool that we used, the check availability tool that we set up before. That's just the ID that has been executed, and these are the available time slots for the day. So this is what more or less the voice agent is going to say back, and we get this from going into the star tab again and just taking the message details from the ChatGPT. So great, now that that's all set up, you can see how that goes from one side of the coin all the way to where we got to with our call with Ben earlier. So we now know what times are available. Now going back, we now need to book the time. Once the user has given us the time that they would like to lock in for the call, we need to put that in the calendar. So the next tool is the book appointment, and we'll go over to make.com again, because what we need to do is grab a fresh webhook for this to be integrated. So we'll go in here. We've already got this all set up, so we can create the webhook in the same way. So webhook, not custom mail hook. We want custom webhook, and you'll add a webhook, basically name it whichever you'd like, and then it's going to give you that URL like I showed you before. And we're going to, once we create the tool, just again to show you, we'll paste the URL in here, and on the next page we got the properties that we need. So the properties are all set up in here, which you heard Ben ask me for, is the full name, email, phone number, and tour date and time. Now you'll notice here, ensure the data output is in ISO 8601 format. You don't really need to know what that means, other than that is the language that Google Calendar understands when it's booking a appointment for you. So next on the make.com automation is the Google Calendar. You'll want to create an event, and we'll go in here to see what that looks like. So you should already have your connection there. You want your create an event in detail and calendar ID. Now that's whatever calendar you want the booking to be sent to. You might have multiple, you might just have the one, but whichever you want it to be sent to is what you'll be doing in here. Now the color, you can have a play around with that. I actually spent an embarrassing amount of time trying to figure out what DBAD meant, but if you want to kind of have a look around for your ideal color, you can do so in there. Now with the event name, that's going to, as you can imagine, name your event. So gym tour booking 4 and you'll want their name in there. So that's where the variables come in handy again. So you can follow along with the flow here, tool with call list, tool call, function, arguments, name. You just want to pick up the user's name. Awesome. All day event, no. And start date, you're going to, again, go through the tool call list, functions, arguments, tour date and time. And that's going to be all set up in our ISO 8601 format so the Google Calendar module can understand it. Now duration, you can set that for however long you want your event to be. I've got that for 1 hour. And here's the description. So they'll see this when they get an email reminder of the booking. The name, which same as above, we can get from the tool call list, phone and email, same story. Location, you can play around with that if you like. Attendees, so this is obviously you're already going to be an attendee, it's your calendar, there's nothing you need to do there, but the user, the person that's booked the gym tour, obviously they'll probably want to be coming to their own gym tour. So name, email, same way that we got before. And the rest of this stuff you can, pretty self-explanatory, you can play around with this as you like, so whether you'd like to be busy or available during the gym tour, and then the rest of that can just be left as standard. So once that's booked, that's all successfully done there. So you can see the example that we ran before. We booked the 2nd of October at 3 p.m. So that's been all successful. So finally, what we've got here is the webhook response. That's been all successfully booked in. So that's the last piece of the puzzle, which is basically confirming to the voice agent that we've booked in and it's all ready to go. That's going to have the voice agent tell the user, like it did to me, that we're all set. Now you can copy along with this. Essentially, that's just telling me that the appointment was booked successfully. Happy days. Awesome, so now that we've got our automation all looking pretty and functional, most importantly, let's bring you over to Twilio, like I mentioned before, and get that number all linked up. So after signing up for an account, you can come over to where we can be buying some phone numbers. So, I mean, there's thousands and thousands to choose from. So depending on where you are based, you can come in here and, I can see some utility in having an Afghani. That's awkward. Let's go. Let's just go Australia. Yeah, that makes sense. Probably can't buy an Afghani number. Anyway, we've got loads of Australian ones to choose from. You can go through, you see a $3 monthly fee, and then you also have use charges as well. So you want to have a look at how much that is charging you and take that into account. But you buy your number here, and then when you want to link it up, you will come back over to VAPI and what we looked at before, go import your number. So we're getting it from Twilio. So once you've bought your number, you will drop it in here. You'll select your country code. So for me, it would have been Australia, and I would have pasted my number in there. So to get the rest of that detail, so Twilio account SID and Twilio auth token, you'll come back into Twilio, go to your account dashboard and scroll down a little bit. And here it all is there. Hopefully I've successfully managed to blur that out so you guys can't use my stuff, but you'll copy that and drop it in there, and then you'll copy this as well and drop it in there too. The label, that's just for you. You can name that whatever you want. And then once you've filled all of those out, you will import from Twilio, click that beautiful green button, and it will be all set, kind of like this one is here. So I've got my number already set up, and you can assign it to your assistant, which Aniseed Gym. So that's all set up. The fallback destination, you most likely won't need that unless you're having some billing problems and you haven't been paying your phone bills, or your inbound phone number for whatever other reason isn't available. That's where your phone call will be redirected to. So if I got on the phone now and called that number, we would have the exact same, to a point, interaction with Ben as we did before. So that's how you set all of that up. So I hope I've been able to demonstrate some of the utility that voice agents, automations, and AI in general can offer your business. Whether it's the gym business, like the demo that we showed today, or financial services, real estate, e-commerce, really anything can benefit from AI today. And this is really just the tip of the iceberg. The software is only getting better and better every day. So I hope you can see the potential that this could bring to your business. Now, this was a bit of a crash course, so if you do have any questions, you can reach me on the email or the website that you can see on the screen. Love to hear from you. You can book yourself in for a consultation on my website, or just as easy, flick me an email. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you got something out of this. I'd appreciate if you could subscribe to stick around. There'll be plenty more videos to come. But otherwise, appreciate you being here. See you next time.